Apple just announced their September 14th event where they're going to show off the iPhone 13 lineup of phones, and I am really excited about it. I want to see how many of the rumors were true. I want to see how much it's going to cost. How much am I going to have to spend to get the new iPhone? Because I do YouTube and I need to have the new iPhone. I also saw, seconds before I started recording this, that there are leaks about the iPhone 14 already, that's coming next year. Things are happening fast. We're definitely in new iPhone season, and before the internet stops caring entirely about last year's phones, I want to talk about this, the iPhone 12 Pro that I've been using for the past year, give it a final grade, talk about it really quickly before the internet stops caring at all. So let's jump into it. Hi everybody, welcome back to A Better Computer. My name is Matt, and yes, before the algorithm starts crushing things about the old iPhone, I did want to talk about this, the iPhone 12 Pro, which I've been using for the past year. I wanted to talk about 4 things about it that I think are notable compared to previous models, and how I think it holds up compared to other iPhones in the grand scheme of things. Is this one of the greats, or is this one of the ones that we're going to kind of forget about in coming years? Okay, first things first is the design. The design is updated this year. There's a new color. I got the Pacific Blue, which I think looks really, really nice. I'm very happy with it. And the big change is the edges. The edges are no longer curved. They're all squared off. The rule with this one was 90-degree angles everywhere, apparently. And I think it looks really, really good. When you just lay it down, I think it looks really nice. When you see it in pictures, when you see it in video, I think it looks really, really cool. I think it looks cool on the iPads. I think it looks cool on the iMacs. And of course, I think it looks great on the iPhone. I just don't think it's as comfortable to hold. So it makes the edges sharper. Even if you're using a case, your case is going to have sharper edges. And if you use it without a case, it's really sharp. But it's less comfortable to hold. I think the flat edges do a worse job of hiding the thickness. So the previous curved edges made your brain think and feel like the phone was thinner than it was. With the new flat edge design, you don't get that mental trick, so it feels thicker than it was previously, and I think it actually is 1 or 2 millimeters thicker than before. So all in all, it feels thicker in the hand, it's less comfortable in my opinion, and it's a little bigger, so it's a little just harder to reach things. So yeah, I don't know if I love the design. I think it's kind of 1 step forward, 2 steps back maybe, which might be a little harsh and you may not agree with, but in my opinion, the design is not the best thing about this phone. Okay, and thing number 2 is the camera. I think the camera on the iPhone 12 Pro is certainly better than last year, but it's not that much better. Apple saved most of the bigger changes for the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which I didn't have, so I'm not going to talk about those. But if you're going from the 11 Pro to the 12 Pro, the experience is going to be basically the same. In my opinion, the experience has been basically the same. There are some things that are better, but the general experience of taking photos, I think, is identical. If you take 2 photos, like especially during the day, and put them side by side, I cannot tell the difference. It's not the end of the world. The iPhone still has a really great camera, but it's not a big jump over last year. The 3 things they did change this year that I think are notable are night mode was improved, where the LiDAR sensor allows for portrait mode in night mode. That's cool. I didn't really use it much, mostly because it was a pandemic, so I didn't really go out to bars or anything and take low light photos, certainly not portraits of people in those situations. So didn't really get to use that much. I did like that the ultra wide camera now supports night mode as well. Previously you had to use the normal lens to do night mode. Now you can use the ultra wide as well. So that's cool. The other thing they improved was the ability to take HDR video, and this one I think is a really big deal. I think HDR video looks incredibly good on the iPhone. I think that it's just a really good thing, and when you combine it with the 60 FPS capture, 4K HDR 60 FPS video on the iPhone 12 Pro looks so good, especially things taken during the day look so realistic, especially when you play them back on an HDR screen. I'm really impressed with this, more impressed than I thought I would be, and I cannot go back to shooting SDR. I shoot everything in HDR now. I've bumped up the frame rate to 60 FPS because I think things just look super, super realistic that way, in a way that, again, I wasn't expecting the jump to feel this big, but it really feels big to me. And then there's ProRAW, Apple's RAW photo mode, which basically lets you take RAW photos in the stock camera app. You used to have to use third-party apps to do this. I don't have a ton to say about this other than it does what it says it's going to do. You get some of Apple's processing on the RAW files, so I'm not quite sure how raw these actually are, but they work really nicely. You have tons of dynamic range. You have lots of flexibility when you edit things. So I like having it. I like using it for special events where I know I'm going to want to edit and tweak the photos after the fact. But yeah, it's a nice to have, not a total game changer in my opinion. And if you're using a phone that doesn't support ProRAW, like any of the non-12 Pro phones, you're able to use something like Halide or Camera Plus or whatever camera app you'd like. There's tons that support RAW photos as well. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty darn close. All right, item number 3 is performance, and for me, this breaks down into 3 categories. There's processor performance, there's battery performance, and there is wireless performance. So on the processor side, the system on a chip, there's the A14 Bionic, which is hella fast, and it's continuing Apple's lead in silicon for mobile devices. It's by far the fastest phone you can get. That's wonderful. It's great. Last year's phone is the only phone that's remotely close to it. And yeah, they're all just very fast. The iPhone continues to be incredibly fast, and you can't really slow it down. That's wonderful. People buy these phones, use them for years. The faster they are when you buy them, the longer they will last. Then there's battery life, which I think is a bit of a regression, actually. It's hard for me to do exact comparisons, especially since the 11 Pro came out in a pre-pandemic world and the 12 Pro has been all pandemic all the time. So my life is a little different. I haven't gone out as many places, been able to test it as much, but in general, I can definitely tell that I'm getting less battery life on the 12 Pro than I did on the 11 Pro. So that I think is definitely a thing. I think if you look at the stats, the specs, I should say, the 12 Pro does have a smaller battery. I think all the 12 line has smaller batteries than previous years. So I think you're going to get less battery. It's not bad by any means, but it's definitely not as incredibly good as it was previously. And then there's 5G, which could be a 30-minute video on its own. All I will say is that this is very personal to you, what carrier you're on, where you live, all this stuff. I will say, for context, I live in northern Illinois, just outside Chicago. I have T-Mobile as my carrier, and T-Mobile LTE sucks out here. It's so bad. I basically get a 3G experience, it feels like, most of the time. It's good enough for me to stream music most of the time, but it's not good enough for me to reliably stream YouTube videos, even at 360p. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So from my shitty LTE experience, 5G has actually been great. I'm getting reliably 40 to 100 megabits per second when I do speed tests. I'm able to easily stream music. I'm easily able to stream videos. I can basically do all the things I want to do on my device, which for me is revelatory because while the rest of the world, it seems to have had a much better LTE experience than me, where they're getting much higher speeds than I've ever gotten, I have not gotten those. And so for me, the upgrade to 5G has actually led to, for whatever reason, much better performance for me. I'm not getting the 1, 2, 3 gigabits per second by any means, but like I said, 40 to 100 megabits per second is pretty normal. And I've had tests go well over 100 megabits, even hitting 200 megabits at times. And that's faster than my home internet. So for me, I'm pretty darn happy with that. That's all I can say. I can't speak to you. I can't tell you how good your coverage is where you live, whether it's only because there are fewer people on the 5G network and once everyone gets on it, it's going to get worse. I do not know, but for me, 5G has made the phone noticeably better when I'm out of the house. So that's definitely a win for me. And the fourth and final thing I want to talk about is the MagSafe connector on the back of this. So you can't see it, but MagSafe on the iPhone 12 Pro, I think, has been pretty good. I hope that it continues to iterate and improve, but in general, I use it to charge my iPhone. Shocking. I have the charging puck that Apple sold when the phone came out. I have it attached to a 12 South little docking thing on my bedside table just so it sticks in place, and I put my phone on it every night. It works, it charges, it aligns nicely. It's cool. It plays a nice little animation when you put the phone down. So all that is nice. That works really well. It's built into the cases and doesn't really do much in my opinion. I think Apple talked about the magnets helping it connect better and stick to the phone better. Maybe it does, but it still has like little things that go over the edges. So I don't really know how much that's doing. It's fine for that. I've tried Apple's wallet as well. So the wallet that sticks on the back, I think I've actually got it around here somewhere. Nope, can't find it. So is it in here? No, it's not. So I don't know where it is, but that's because I didn't like it at all. I know some people love it, but I found it inconvenient. I made a video about it. I found it inconvenient to use. I didn't like how it didn't really stick reliably to the back of the phone. It just didn't work for me. I know it works for other people, but for me, it didn't really connect. So that's it. That is my report of the iPhone 12 Pro after a year of using it. If you can tell, I think that this was a pretty mild update for the iPhone. I think the design makes it seem more substantial than it is, but it's not my favorite design of the iPhone. I think that feature-wise, they added some stuff, but I don't think it was super meaningful. I really think the 11 Pro was a fantastic release and is the best of the iPhone 10 generation of design. I think in the previous designs, I think the best was the iPhone 5, which ironically had the same kind of flat sides, but they had chamfered edges which softened them a little bit and made it feel both thinner in your hand and more comfortable. And I hope that the next version of the iPhone that has flat edges, who knows if it'll be next week, it sounds like no, but maybe the following year, they'll chamfer the edges so that they're a little bit more comfortable in the hand. But yeah, I think that it's definitely a good phone. It's hard to say any iPhone is bad. I just think this isn't one of their absolute best. So I'm happy with it. I'm fine with spending the money on it. It's a hobby and everything, sort of a career here on YouTube, I guess. But yeah, hoping that the iPhone 13 fixes some of the issues I had with the 12, and hoping that the 14, that apparently is already rumored, there's rumors about it, hopefully that will improve even more. So that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you here next time. Bye-bye.